Do you practice a lot, but you feel like you're not really getting better? One day you sound great, and the next day it's like you forgot everything. Or maybe you play fine at home, but in your lesson or at someone else's house, it just falls apart. It's not your talent, and it's definitely not your effort. It's actually how everyone's brain works. And the good news is, scientists have found ways that you can learn faster and make things stick better. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 piano practicing strategies that will turbocharge your progress. And be sure to stay to the end, because one of them is something very few players do, and it will make a big difference in how you sound. And the best part is, when you start improving faster, practicing feels way more fun, and that will make you want to practice more. So this is the best kind of spiral, going that way. Before we dive in, I made you a free one-page guide called Turbocharge Your Practice. It lists the 7 most common practicing mistakes that I see and the exact fixes that you can apply that are in this video. You can grab it at the link in the description. So point number 1, balanced practicing. So I conceive of practicing as having 3 main types. So one type is learning the notes. Learning how to play the notes. What are the fingerings? When do I have to move my hands? What are the rhythm? So the mechanics of how you execute it, the muscle memory. That's one kind of practicing. Another kind of practicing is learning how the piece goes. How does it sound? What are the things you think should be louder and softer? What is the mood of the piece? What is the style of the piece? All of these things going together into your mental representation of the piece. Most people are spending all of their time doing the mechanical practicing, and usually doing the mechanical practicing first before they do any of the conceptual practicing. If you don't know what it is you're trying to do, you cannot do it. You need to form an objective in your mind, and by objective I mean, like, how do you want it to sound? You can make your decisions about, like, how fast do you think it should go. If you're early in your studies, which notes are louder than which other notes? Is one hand louder than the other? If you're more advanced, which interpretation do you like? This person's pedaling. What do you like about their pedaling? What are they doing at that transition that makes it sound so seamless when everybody else drops the ball there? Have your score. Take notes. I often have my students make a special copy of their score on their digital note on their iPad, or if they're paper score, just make a paper copy, and then take notes on recordings that you listen to and decide what it is that you like. And the final thing is practicing performing the piece, testing out. Can you actually do whatever it is that you're trying to do? Can you do it on the first try? Do you need to, play it through 5 times first before you can execute? If that's the case, well, you have not learned it very well, and you need to go back and see what is it you should change so that it is encoded accurately. Most people drill the mechanics and hope the rest will just take care of itself. I know I did, also because nobody told me what else to do. Today I'm going to show you techniques that will help you improve your mechanics much more quickly, and I'm also going to show you hacks for working on the other types of practicing so that you can add in those 2 missing pieces as you go. And by the way, if you want all the info in this video as a one-page sheet that you could just keep on your piano, be sure to grab my free guide called Turbocharge Your Practice. It lists the 7 most common practicing mistakes that I see and the exact fixes to do instead that I'm presenting to you in this video. The link is in the description. So instead of just drilling, now you're practicing in balance. Great. But what happens when you still are hitting wrong notes? That's where principle number 2 comes in. Point number 2, practice like a detective. Practicing is problem solving. It's not just doing it 100 times and hoping that you'll sound like that guy over there if you do it enough times, if you spend enough hours at it. I'm here to tell you that that does not work. You probably already know that, or you wouldn't be watching this video. So I posted a short a day or 2 ago, it's kind of talking about this point, and one person put a comment. He said, I know what my problem is. It's that I can't play the piece. That's my problem. Yeah, that is his problem, but that's not a good enough definition of the problem that he can actually solve it. It's way too general. He needs to figure out for himself, what is it about the piece that is not how he wants it to be? So let's go to really kind of baseline level. Maybe he can't play through without stopping. Maybe he's always playing wrong notes in a certain spot. Or maybe there's random wrong notes random wrong notes popping up all over the place. These are all different problems. They are not the same problem, and they require different solutions. And that's why you need to be looking and figuring out, what is my problem? If you don't know what the problem is, you can't fix it. You need to know exactly what the problem is. If you go to the doctor and you say, I don't feel good, and the doctor says, well, tell me more, and you say, well, I just don't feel good. What's the doctor going to do for you? They don't know what test to give you. They don't know, they have no idea where your problem could be. And playing music is like that. It's complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. You need to get specific in how you're thinking about it to actually be able to improve. So first of all, you want to make a plan about what it is that you're going to be working on right now in this moment. I don't mean a general plan like I'm going to spend half an hour on Bach. I mean, I'm in measure 1, and my plan is that I am going to get the right fingering when I play the notes on the first beat. Or I'm getting this piece ready for my teacher's recital, and my plan is that I am going to work on the first phrase and make it have better dynamics that get louder and softer. That's what I'm talking about when I say plan. I mean something very specific to the exact portion of the music that you are going to be working on. You should then try to hear it in your head or imagine as best you can, make a mental image of what it is that you're going to be doing. So if it's the fingering example, you'd be looking at the score and maybe saying out loud what the finger numbers are, or you could also put your hand on the keys and try to feel each finger as you look at each note that it's supposed to be playing. So you're doing this mental imaging. If it's the example about the phrasing, maybe you're looking at the score and trying to hear the music in your inner hearing as best you can. Now, it's very variable what people can imagine in their head. I wouldn't worry about how good you are or are not at doing it. You just need to try, and you will get better. And there's a lot of information out there about improving mental practice, but this is not a video on that. So maybe someday. If you're interested in that, please leave a note about it in the comments. It's something I do like to talk about. You already imaged what it is you're going to do. Now you're going to try to do it. Keep track. Pay attention. How well is it going? Is it working or is it not working? Try to notice what happens. Do you get mixed up at a certain spot? Do you lose focus? Do you forget what it is you're trying to do? Try to notice those things. Okay, time to stop. Check and adjust. What worked? What didn't work? If something worked, great, do it again. If it didn't work, you got mixed up, you forgot what you were doing, you need to change something. Maybe you got to have a clearer mental image. Maybe you have to practice a shorter section. Maybe you need to record yourself. We're going to have more tools in the video later about what it is that you could change, so stay tuned. And you could even keep a notebook where you write down what works. That's a very powerful technique as well. Once you start practicing like a detective, you need the right tools so that you can actually fix the problems that you find. And that's where most players go wrong. They don't have a toolkit. They just repeat things, hoping it will get better. I definitely was there for a lot of years. So let me show you the tools that I give my students. These are simple techniques based on neuroscience that will make your practicing at least 10 times more effective. Point 3, your practice toolkit. So one of my favorite tools that I'm very fond of is the tiny chunk method. And this is a very powerful technique when you are trying to learn something, when you don't know it yet. So that could be learning your notes and your rhythms. That could be learning how to make the top note of your chord sound better than the other notes. It could be figuring out like a fancy trill in the right hand. Where does the left hand fit into it? That kind of thing. You're learning something that you don't know yet. You want to take a very small piece, a small amount of music. So that would be, by small, I mean 3 to 5 items. Okay, quick memory test. I'm going to show you a bunch of things on the screen. You'll have just a few seconds to look at them. Okay, ready? Now. Pause the video. Write down, how many do you remember? Did you get all 10? Probably not. Most people can only hold about 3 to 5 items in short-term memory, maybe 7 if you're super, super good at it. And that's why practicing 14 measures, a page, the exposition of your piece does not work. By the way, if you want to check yourself and see what you forgot, I put the full list inside my download that you can get at the link in the description. So to make something permanent, your brand has to load it into short-term memory, forget it, and then load it again, and then forget it in a repetitive process. And that's what eventually creates a lasting memory. But your short-term memory can only hold about 3 to 5 items. And if you try to practice more than that, most of it never even gets into your short-term memory in the first place. You max out your capacity. It's like the memory test that you just did. If you keep trying to memorize all 10 items at once and you're only remembering 3 of them on each try, you will never master the last 7 because they never get stored in the first place. And that's why working in small, perfect chunks is so powerful. Everything you practice actually gets into your short-term memory and has a chance to stick. So what's an item? I get asked this all the time. An item could be a note, it could be a fingering, it could be a chord, it could be 3 octaves of the same, 3 measures of the same repetitive accompaniment pattern. It depends on if you're able to think of groups of notes as one thing. And one way we do that is by thinking of chord shapes or parts of a scale. Then that whole pattern will count as one item. And that's also why more experienced players usually can practice larger chunks. They've built up more of these mental shortcuts. Also why it's a good idea to work on sight reading and theory. You build up your chunkification skills. And also why if you're playing music that's got patterns you don't know or is more irregular, why it takes longer to learn those. Because it's harder to think of the music in chunks. That will sometimes happen with music that has harmonies and chords that you don't know. It just doesn't sink into your mind because you can't conceive of that sound as a chunk. When I have worked with my students on this, they all nod their heads, yeah, tiny chunk, and then they come back, and most of the time the chunk is too long, almost always. Here's a demo of a tiny chunk. One powerful technique to help yourself stick with those tiny chunks, which is most people don't want to do that at first. We're so used to the flow of the music. It's fun to keep going. And I think people feel like, well, if I'm only doing a tiny chunk, how am I going to get to the rest of it? Well, the point is, if you do the tiny chunk, it will actually stick. And so after a day, a couple days maybe, you don't need to do that tiny chunk anymore, really, at all. And you only need to do it 3 to 5 times. So even though it's a tiny chunk, you're not spending 20 minutes on it, right? You're spending 30 seconds, a minute at most on it. So you will have time to do lots of tiny chunks, and you will get to your whole piece. Anyway, a good implementation tool is the humble Post-it note. So you can stick that on your music, even on your iPad you can stick it, to help yourself remember to stop and to only do that little bit. And that will help you constrain yourself so that you can really focus on those little bits. Very powerful and just in the right price range too. Okay, technique number 2, the $100 tempo. Now I know I've told this story before, but I'm going to repeat it because it's a good story. So a teacher is working with a student and she's getting frustrated and she says, okay, I will give you this bill if you can get it right on the first try. And she reaches in her wallet and she pulls out a bill, and it's $100 bill. And she puts it on the music desk, and the student is like, whoa. So if you were that student and somebody said they are going to give you $100 if you get it exactly right on the first try, what speed would you be going? That's the speed you want to be practicing these tiny chunks at, the $100 tempo. If you cannot do whatever it is you're trying to do at the tempo you chose, either your tempo is too fast or your chunk is too long. So remember that $100 bill as you're choosing your tempi. And why is it that we want to go slow like that? Well, it's because when you're accurate, you're encoding the same thing over and over again, and that is what makes learning permanent. And the faster you can get things to be permanent, the faster you learn your pieces, the more you're going to improve, because you're trying something and then you internalize it more quickly, and then you can build on that and increase your skills. So that's why going slow like that will actually help you get better faster. It's counterintuitive. Okay. After 2 or 3 clean, correct repetitions, just stop. Take a 10, 15-second break. Put your hands in your lap. Take a breath. Maybe sip some water. Look out the window. It could feel boring, but that is the point. While you're sitting there, your brain is actually rehearsing what you just played below the surface. You're not aware of it, and it's doing it way, way faster than you could do it, real time. If you fill the break with checking your phone or thinking about something else, you are interrupting that process. So the boring pause is actually the secret weapon. Honestly, this can be the hardest part. Most of us are not very good at being bored. I'm certainly not good at it. And I also feel like I'm being lazy if I'm not actually, working. But this is when the learning actually sticks. And also, I like playing. It's fun. I don't want to stop. I'm just getting into the flow of it. That's what I like about playing, is that flow. But it will turbocharge your practice when you can make yourself do that, when you can take those breaks. Tool number 4, change up practice. Like in baseball, where I don't play baseball, but let's say you're practicing and learning to hit balls. You're going to learn a lot better if the pitcher is pitching you a different pitch every time than if you practice 10 curveballs, 10 whatever. I don't play baseball. 10 of one kind, 10 of a different kind, 10 of another kind. You're not going to be as prepared for a real game because things change. But the studies are that when you do variable practice, when you change up what it is that you're doing, your learning will become more durable. It becomes ingrained much more quickly. So what kinds of things could you change up? Well, now this is, again, you've already learned your section that you're trying to learn. Maybe you learned your whole piece, right? And you're polishing it up for a recital, or you learned it last year and you're bringing it back. You can change up your tempo. You could play very slowly. That's a really good way to break up any kind of just muscle memory and force your brain to actually remember what comes next, to think about what comes next. You can play with different dynamics. Kind of a fun one is to take the dynamics that are printed and do them backwards. Here I've got the Chopin waltz, and I'm going to play the measure 3 and 4. And what's printed is... So I'm going to try to do that backwards. I'll have to think hard to do that, and that's the point. Another fun one is to try to play it like your favorite character from a movie, a book, a cartoon, or play it like your favorite pianist would play it. So again, we're engaging the mind. You could try singing one line and playing the other lines. Maybe another one, you could make the other hand play it. Let's see if I can do that. That'd be fun. So the right hand was playing the bass line, the left hand's playing the melody. Get creative. That's very hard, especially when you try to do that from memory. All of these things are making your brain work harder, making the learning much more detailed and more thorough, and that's why they make things stick better. And strange rhythms are good too. Interleaving, switch up. That means don't do the same thing over and over and over again, but instead be changing what it is, which piece it is you're practicing, or at least which section it is you're practicing. So a very powerful way to do that is set a timer on your phone. There's apps where you can get it, and it just you can set it so it just rings a timer like every 5 minutes or 7 minutes. I have one I've used called Interval Timer. That's just like that, simple name, Interval Timer. And I would set it for 5 minutes, to ring every 5 minutes for like 2 hours. And then every time it rings, I have to switch what I'm doing. Now, at first, this is really not fun. I didn't like being interrupted, because I feel like I just getting the hang of it, and I got interrupted, and now I got to go figure something else out, which is annoying. But that's the whole point, actually, is you've got it going to where it's feeling easier. That's when it's time to leave. Also, if you find your mind wandering, or you're feeling bored, it's time to switch it up. Do not keep playing the same section. That means your brain is not engaged. Your brain has learned what it's going to learn. It's time to force it to learn a different part. So if you try this and you don't like it, give it 3-4 days. See what kind of progress you notice. because once I started to see the progress, then I really liked it. And it also was a little bit of a relief, like, okay, I don't have to like get this passage all totally perfect in the 5 minutes. I just need to work on it for 5 minutes. Then when 5 minutes up, I can just give up. It doesn't matter where it's at. I'll come back to it. And it'll probably be improved because I came back to it. That is a part of the reason interleaving works, is that once you stop doing one thing, your brain is rehearsing what it was you were doing, like we talked about in the micro breaks. And that's also why interleaving is so powerful. Now, if you're switching up what you're doing, apparently the research shows that if you switch to something completely different, that's a lot better than switching to something very similar. So if you were working on the two pieces I've been using in this video, the Bach Invention and the Chopin Waltz, it'd be good to go back and forth between the two of them, rather than playing all parts of the Bach for however long, 25 minutes, and then switching and playing 25 minutes of Chopin. If you want more support on using these exact strategies, you'll love my community, Piano with Rebecca B. Every month we focus on applying these methods through challenges and live talks. You can ask me directly or the other members how to use the techniques, ideas, what's working, what's not working. It's very helpful. There's so many techniques that it's really good to be able to get feedback on which one to use when. And it's also the best place to stay motivated while you put these tools into action. Join us at the link in the description. So the final tool in our toolkit, tool number 5 in the toolkit, the quick record mirror. So this means when you're working on a piece, your little micro chunks, record yourself. I'm not talking about recording the whole piece and seeing if it's a good performance. I'm talking more about it, integrating it into your practice routine. So you could just stick your phone here on the side of the keys like this. Many people have a tripod. You can get a tripod, put your phone there and just jump over there and hit record, or just do the audio. It doesn't matter if you have the video. You can learn a lot from checking in with yourself on these micro bits, and it will help you with that cycle where we said, make a plan, try it out, and then evaluate. Did it work? Did it not work? So this is when you bring in your quick record mirror to help you know, did it work or not work? Now, a lot of people, I suggest they record and they don't for a long, long time. I might have to suggest it for 5-6 years before they actually record. And I think it's because when you record yourself, you discover that you thought you were playing it one way, but in fact you're playing it a different way, and that's not a good thing. It's not as good as you were hoping it sounded. So that's the point, right? If you think that you're sounding good but you're not, how are you going to improve if you're not aware of what the difference is and exactly what is it that you're doing that you don't like? And where is it? Which measure? Which two notes? Maybe that should be the first note of my turn that's louder. Maybe it's too slow. Maybe I want to make it faster. You can't, it's very hard to get to that level of detail without recording yourself and stepping back and listening. And over time, as you do this recording, you'll discover that you get better and better at hearing yourself while you're actually playing. And then, of course, that makes you a better player as well. Because you're playing along, you can hear more clearly and more accurately what it is that you're doing, then you can adjust real time. If you want to make every minute of the piano count, be sure to grab my free guide. The link is in the description. It shows you how to take the techniques from the video and use them the right way instead of falling into the 7 most common practicing mistakes. Print it, put it on your piano, and use it every day. You'll find the link below. And in my community, Piano with Rebecca B., we dive a lot deeper into the specifics of how to apply these practice techniques. You can ask me questions directly if you get stuck, and the other members can also support you while you're putting all this stuff into action. We also have challenges, live talks, live performances to help you stay motivated. You can try it for free for 7 days. I'd love to see you inside. And be sure to check out this video next for more info on some great practice strategies.